3, 2.
Welcome to your next 50. Disclaimer, you may want to put on your panty liners for this episode because
I
today,
have mine on, Jenny Mitchell. I've got the long one on today.
That's the kind of show we're doing today. Ladies, we are here to tell you that don't wait one more day hiding behind the stories that hold you back. We are here to empower you. Today we're here to make you laugh. We hope we're going to have a great time. Sylvia's laughing already. I haven't even introduced the guest yet.
Already laughing.
Just chill. Let me finish, Sylvia.
I know.
Okay. So this is a fan moment for Jenny Mitchell. I am delighted to introduce you to our guest, Whitney, but you may know her as @the new Stepford. She's going to introduce herself in a second. She is the hilarious, giggly woman behind, I guess it's very close to home. She has some teenagers and she tells these wonderful midlife mom stories on Instagram, but she's going to tell us about where she came from, how she got into it, and where she's going with your next 50 years on the planet.
I'm also a fan, Jenny Mitchell, because I think I'm really funny and sometimes think I should do stand-up, but then I'm like, no, not at all. So I'm glad Whitney's here instead. But
you gotta do it. You just have to do it because, first of all, like, no one is out there pulling you on stage, right? Mm-hmm. You have to be like, I've got to just do it. Yeah. And once you get up there, you'll be like,
and my kid's like, Mom, you're just so cringe. That's what they keep telling me these days. Mom, you're so cringe.
You're so mid.
Boomer. I get boomer. I was like, do you even know what that means? I do not think you know what that means.
Well, this is what I love. Mom, you're a boomer. And then they go put on Steely Dan and Pink Floyd. I'm like, hey, FYI, fucker. Like,
that is my music.
That's my music.
It was mine first.
You don't get to call me a boomer. They go, listen to my music. So get out of town.
Oh, Whitney, we're so happy to have you. Tell us a little bit. Like, I just found out that you just became a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, it's new.
Wow. Like, I love that because we talk about rewriting our chapters. We talk about, our kids get to a certain age and what do we want to be doing? And here you're doing it. You're doing it.
Yeah. I'm 52 years old. And it was just one of those, like, just my background is like, I had postpartum depression. And if anyone has ever had that, my heart goes out to you because it's an actual legit thing. And what I found was soothing for me is I would write these missives on Facebook that were just dark, but really funny. And then I had a friend who was a documentarian. And she was like, you should put these on video. They're kind of funny. And I was like, no one's going to watch a middle-aged woman bitching about her kids. And she's like, no, it's going to look like. So we did. They actually do. So we were one of the first, like, original mommy bloggers into video because that time it was still really blog focused. So put those videos out. They did really well. I won a bunch of awards for video. And I'm always an advocate for video. I'm like, it's where it's going. And you see it with TikTok and you see it with Instagram. Like, get your face on camera.
But this is 20 years ago, no, Whitney? Like when your kids are 15?
Yeah, it was probably 15 to 18 years ago. And I have not grown my Instagram followers for shit. You'd think I'd have more.
No, you're being very dismissive.
It is the algorithm.
You have over 50,000 followers and the quality of the content and the kind of interaction you get. So I'm throwing that one back at you.
Oh, Jenny, I love you.
It's true. It's true. And so tell us, it's interesting. I want to go a whole bunch of ways, but you touched on something, humor as a coping mechanism. I think that's kind of cool. Tell me more. Tell me about you don't have to go into the depression part unless you'd like to, but so many people are struggling under so much right now. How are you using humor to break that pattern?
It's one of the languages in which you can speak truth and not offend people and not make people feel bad about themselves or their decisions. So it's really a language of love in a way. Back to medieval times, like the jester was the guy that could actually speak truth to the king, right? Because he delivered it in a funny way. So humor is just one of the things that I have found, especially as a mom, like we have to know we're not alone. We have to know that we've cleaned up vomit and poop and that we don't want to have sex with our husband. We'd actually rather sleep with our dog next to us. Like those are realities that we need to start speaking out loud because And I think, Jenny, you and I had that moment yesterday. It's like, are you in my house? Are you in my kitchen?
Yeah.
Like the minute someone says that to me, I'm like, winner, winner, chicken dinner, because I have made you feel like you are not alone in this crazy journey and that everything you're going through is totally normal. Because I also think we seek to know that we're normal, because we have also grown up, like, we don't really talk about sex. Like my parents didn't talk to me about sex. Nobody talked to me like marriage is hard. They just got divorced. Like as soon as we can start breaking down those barriers and identifying shame and identifying hardship, humor's the way to do that. Did you really want that really long answer?
Yes. Yes.
No, and it's really good because I, in another life, owned a doula agency and worked with new moms and our mommy groups. Yes, you are not just letting them know that they weren't the only ones dealing with this. And Jenny's shared her, parts of her story before. I've shared mine. It is new. Yes, there are parenting courses, but not really, right? I mean, they don't prepare you for exactly how can they? And everyone's situation is so different. But just talking about it. When I always say something, I was like, should I say this? And I said, I can't be the only one thinking this.
Right.
As brilliant and as smart and funny as I am, I know there are other people talking about this or thinking it, just not saying it. So
and then if you're born with the no filter, like I am, and I think probably in different aspects of your life, you ladies are as well, when those no filter moments come out and somebody goes, oh my God, thank you, to your point, thank you for saying that out loud. I was thinking that. That's where humor comes in, just that ability to be like, oh, somebody said it out loud, thank God.
Yeah. So picking up on kids, how do you manage? I mean, you're probably famous. I have this thing where if I put something on Instagram, my kids will text me from school and be like, Mom, take that down. So how do you manage that?
That's a great question, because it's like, I'm not fucking Kim Holderness. Like the Holderness family is like, we are perfect people.
Well, they'll just put a song to it, right? They'll just sing out their emotions.
She's the most wonderful. She's truly the kindest lady. But my family's like, no. My husband's very like, we don't talk about sex, my sex life, really, because my husband's like, boundaries. It's not okay. For that to go out there. And then my 16-year-old son has also been like, my adolescence is not fodder for your channel.
Okay.
So I rarely post him, and if I do, I usually put a picture over his face. My daughter, on the other hand, she's more open to allowing me to do that. But in a way, it's been kind of a hindrance, because you want to be as a mommy blogger, but you can't talk about half of your family. It's been a little bit of a challenge. So, but I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them for saying, my life is not for your documentary or to be made.
Yeah, good for them for putting boundaries so soon. And it's true. Facebook, that platform. My hubby posts things about the kids, and I was like, we always have to get their consent. So you have to ask them every single time, because they might not want that story out there. And I love that we're teaching them so young, because I don't think that we had that necessarily. We were not taught as such a young age.
Yeah, I have a very unpopular opinion. I think I'm gonna start a channel called Unpopular Opinions. I do not think you should allow your child to have social media or a phone until they get to be a freshman. And when I say that, half the women are like, but my kid's so busy and we're divorced and they need it. I'm like, that kid is 13. They are never without a coach or a parent or a teacher. They don't need a phone. And most people want to punch me in the face when I say that, but I'm sticking to that.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, you're like, I love you, but I hate you.
Were you always funny? Were you always funny?
I don't think so. I don't think until I passed that second placenta, I don't think I had really a sense of humor. But then I was like, oh shit.
What did you do before?
I came from corporate brand marketing.
You're kidding.
Marketing.
No. So here's my story. I loved movie trailers. That was like my favorite thing in the world, is movie trailers. And I wanted to edit them. So I dated this wonderful guy in college, and he said to me, what do you want to do when you graduate? It's like, I want to edit movie trailers. His dad's best friend owned the biggest movie trailer house in Burbank, California. So I I graduated and I was like, I want to go. And they said, during my job, what's your favorite movie? And I was like, Mary Poppins. And the whole room went quiet. They're like, so not like Reservoir Dogs or The Godfather? I was like, no. And I was like, I didn't get the job. And I did get it. And I think I made $21,000 a year. And it was, to this day, guys, probably my favorite job. So edited trailers for Disney, and then Disney was the client. Ended up going to Disney, where at that time was 93. I was good friends with the tech guy, the guy that would fix your computer. And one day he comes in and goes, "Have you heard about this thing called the internet?" I'm like, no, I haven't. Tell me everything. So he jacks me into Netscape. I think that was it. Or Firefox, yes. Like one of those like old school. And I was like, what is this? So I go running to like the president of marketing. I'm like, we've got to start putting our movies on this internet thing. And he goes, fine, tall blonde woman. If you want to go do that,
you go do that.
You go do that, but you still have to do your regular job. So for 2 years, I did feature film marketing and started the internet division. And then after a year, I was like, the internet was exploding. So then I did that for 7 years, built Disney.com and built Disney Online. And that's an incredible thing. But 2 points on that. I've always enjoyed being at the intersection of technology and entertainment. And I think that's why this social media was such a natural progression for me to be like, oh, we need to start communicating in the aspect ratio and the medium in which people are consuming their data. And it's like I said, it's been video, in my opinion, for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's only getting stronger in terms of videos. Cameras get better. And then after that, I went to Coca-Cola for 7 years and marketed Coca-Cola. So strong brand marketing.
Yes. Wow.
So tell me about the new Stepford brand. You know, that would be kind of neat. Tell me how you position yourself and how you think of yourself.
The new Stepford was, well, are you guys familiar with the Stepford Wives and what?
Yeah. Hello.
Right. Okay. Well, our generation younger generations actually don't know what it is. So I have to kind of explain it. So the Stepford Wives were perfect wives, and it ended up being that they were robots created by their husbands. And I was like, we've got to rewrite this narrative. Like, motherhood in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s was very different than motherhood in the 90s and the 2000s. Like, we're the sandwich panini generation between older parents and younger kids. Like, we're dealing with stuff that previous generations haven't, and it's not fucking easy, and it's not pretty, and it's got to be funny, or we're going to lose our mind. So I was like, the new Stepford, like the new perfect wife, which means messy and opinionated and loud and doing what they want to do. So that's how the name came about. I don't know if anybody even knows what it is or can spell it.
Well, I knew right away what it meant.
Oh,
I did, but
I think you're one person.
Because that's the generation, right? And I guess it was a generation, our parents' generation. I think I watched that probably with my parents. But it's true, the younger kids would not know what that.
I think of Nicole. Isn't it Nicole Kidman? Wasn't she one of the?
She redid the movie.
Oh, that's the bad version. You got to go to the old,
the original. Okay, you want the original one?
Okay.
1960s, I think.
Exactly. And it's freaky. And the book's weird too. And it's funny. Well, no, never mind. We'll go off on a different tangent.
So that's the new Stepford. But I mean, you've evolved. I think it's really, just to take a pause for all of our listeners, what I love about this story, Whitney, is you can do anything you fucking want. You can do it at what age you want. And 50 is not too old to take a flag out of Jen Marples, one of our guests who talks about you're not too fucking old. Where are you going? Give us a taste of what 53, 54 might look like.
Oh, okay. So if I can manifest my vision board, I would really love to be a writer on a female-led sitcom. My muses are Kay Cannon and Andrea Savage. Like, I just love their senses of humor. And that's kind of like, if I can pull this adventure through, I'd love that stand-up to create create the content and the ability to think quickly, but also create the networks to, like, how do I get into a staff room in Hollywood and really like figure out how to put these jokes of a middle-aged humorist mom into comedy on television and film. That would be my dream.
Wow. I like it. It's going to happen.
We said it.
I love that. We put it out there. We said it. It is. So we have compared ourselves, Whitney, to Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, as well as Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda.
Yes.
They're our inspiration. And I like you are they're trailblazers, and you are on the cusp of that as well as women in comedy. How hard we've had a show about women in male dominated fields. And I feel, can you talk to me about that? I have some perceptions of what that might be like, but I would like to hear your take on that.
I think I'll share an anecdote first. One of the videos that I've made that I thought was really funny, and I taped it, and the guy, I finished, and he goes, "That's really funny. Who wrote that?" I was like, I wrote that. And it was just like, you run into that all the time. Like, oh, clearly you couldn't have written that because you're a woman.
Blonde?
So that's, you're blonde, attractive. You don't get to be funny. Like, pretty women aren't funny. I'm like, well, thanks, but no. So I think it is a very male dominated field. And I think I can't really truly give you a perspective of stand-up. I don't think I've been doing it long enough to tell you authentically about my journey there. But as a writer and a blogger, I think that humor in women is kind of still, they don't quite know what to do with us, especially when you go blue and you start doing sex jokes and that kind of stuff. They're kind of like, So I don't know. Can we talk about this next year when I'm more famous?
Yes.
We're
going to have you back.
We're definitely. Yeah. And the swearing thing is an interesting one. If you've listened to the podcast, I love tennis, and, Serena Williams lost her lunch on a tennis court at the US Open. I think it was maybe 2 years ago. And she was really criticized because she really went after the umpire, and she said a lot of swear words, and she really made a point. And her argument at the time was, hey, if a guy was doing this, nobody would think twice. John McEnroe had an entire...
McEnroe's been doing it for his whole career.
Yeah, exactly.
Brand on it.
Yeah, it was his entire brand, precisely. But we're not used to women breaking those molds. We're not used to women swearing, being unpolite. Just like that bossy word. I think there is something about the blue language that it's really hard. Well, is it the mother thing? Do you think it's the mother? We wouldn't...
I don't know. I was just trying to pull up an Instagram story that I posted yesterday, because to that point, it was like, women aren't obnoxious. We're just older, we're more educated, and we're fucking furious because we see the inequalities. And they label us as hysterical, and they label us as like, no, we just started to pull our heads out of our asses, especially now that our kids are kind of grown and we become the focus instead of them. You're like, wait, that's inequitable. That's not quite fair. And I was like, that's the beauty of hitting 50 is A, you don't give a fuck about what people think about you anymore, which is extremely liberating. And then B, you can be like, I'm going to start calling out some bullshit that I'm seeing. And quite honest, I'm also pretty political. There is so much bullshit happening right now, in America and politics. It is exhausting to trying to be a woman right now.
I think if I compare it to my mom's generation, the boomer generation, the internet has probably helped us in that more people are hearing us swear. They're hearing and seeing the frustration, so we can normalize it a little bit, while our parents perhaps did not, right? I wouldn't see my mom doing that, but it seems it's okay perhaps now, if that's part of your brand.
I hope so. It was interesting. I was speaking to my mother-in-law, and she said that she spent the first 15 years of her marriage. She didn't know she was allowed to say no to her husband.
Oh my God.
Right? A whole generation of women going, oh, I didn't realize I could even say no or disagree. I was like, oh, girl.
I want those 15 years back.
I asked my dad, and I might get in trouble for this, but anyway, I asked my dad what my mom was like at the beginning of their marriage. And he said, quote, well, your mother was a very different person back then. It's like, okay, we can read into that a whole bunch of ways. I'm just going to stop.
But they're coming out of their shells. I mean, my mom too, I think when she was learning how to cook and be a good spouse and make sure, I mean, it was the 60s and the 70s.
But I love that you're saying that, because think about what impresses upon us about how we're supposed to act, right? The TV shows we watch, the magazines that we read, the lyrics that we listen to. Back in the 50s and 60s, that entire media structure was dominated by men and men writers.
Yeah.
So the men are writing what the woman is supposed to act like in the kitchen or in the bedroom. That's why it's so important that women are starting to come to comedy and get into those writers' rooms and get those perspective shares, because of course a man's going to be like, oh, I would love my wife to look beautiful and be in the kitchen and with a martini when I get home. I would fucking love that.
I'd love a wife too.
I want to find her. I'll get married to her right now.
I would love that. And it's just, oh God, we could go in so many different directions, but yeah.
Okay. So I'm just thinking about me growing up. Kids in the Hall. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're a Canadian group of 4.
Oh, yeah. Amy Sedaris and Stephen Colbert, right?
Well, yeah. Well, that's the, what's the name of that show? But anyway, Kids in the Hall. It was 4 guys, 4 young guys, and I can remember watching that religiously, and we'd talk about it at school the next day. That's another aside, that media used to be the same for everybody, so there was this commonality to it. You could talk about it, but I find my kids watch all these really weird segmented things. Like, I don't think there's the commonalities, but I can't imagine Kids in the Hall being 4 women. Funny, eh? It's 4 guys. And that was the brand of Kids in the Hall. Yeah. And so until we have Kids in the Hall that's the female version, 4 female leads, it's a little bit like, until men can have babies, is there ever equity?
Yeah. I don't know. I think Broad City might be something that tried to approach on that, which is, female focused, female.
The Baroness von Sketch Show is another Canadian one. I love that. And they
love them.
they're amazing. They've shut down now. They're not reruns, but they're very funny. And I think, we're 2022 and now we're starting to see that, right, Jenny? We're just starting. That's what I get your point. Is like even when we were in our 20s, it was still men.
Yeah. And Kids in the Hall, I also think what broke them through was so obscurist comedy. Like, we really hadn't seen that kind of comedy before. Yeah. So I think that's why they really stood out. And to your point, like, they resonated so highly with when you were probably in high school, right? When that came out? Yeah. Like, we hadn't seen that before. And people speaking our language, using our vocabulary is like, oh.
And Goofy, Mr. Canoe Head. Do you remember Mr. Canoe? Like, there was such ridiculous things. Okay, so I want to do a wild, out of left field question for you. This is a magic wand. If you're watching me on video, it may look like a pencil, but actually, Whitney, it's a magic wand. You get to hold the magic wand, and you are now George Soros. So you have $1 million. What do you do with it, Whitney?
I was not prepared for that.
No. Improv.
Okay. The politically correct Whitney would say, I am giving it to the Education Foundation in underprivileged.
Yeah, fine.
What I would really do with it is I would be like, fuck y'all fuckers. I am going to live in Finland for a year, and I'm going to bring a stack of books, and I'm not going to touch a computer. I'm not going to touch a phone. I want to be like Minority Report person. Like, I don't want any technology around me at all. So I think I'd spend the money just being a recluse and living.
And drinking. I hope there's drinking involved with that. Yes.
Copious. I might buy a winery.
Vodka.
I think I'm not a vodka. I used to be a vodka grapefruit. What are those, Greyhounds? The vodka grapefruit drinks? Yeah. Or sea breeze. But now it's just red wine. But it dyes my teeth red. Yeah. Everyone's like, do you drink before you go on stage? I'm like, no, because I'm too vain. I'll get like purple teeth. And white wine gives me a headache. So I get off the stage and I'm like,
Isn't it funny, though, that for somebody who makes their living online, that your choice.
I had the thought too, Jenny.
Yeah, magic wand is to go without internet.
Away from being
really
online.
Recenter, Whitney? Is that it?
I think to your point, Jenny, it was just like all those channels of information that get more and more niche and more into those echo chambers. I think we have all fallen guilty of that. I have, right? I listen to left-wing media more than I listen to right-wing media because I can't listen to right-wing media. It makes me physically ill, the lies. But I'm also like, Whitney, you've got to be aware that you are in your own little echo chamber. And I think I just need to go back to books and be like, I don't want, media is just people's opinions. I want to go back to like some more factual stuff and rebuild my philosophy on government and theocracy, democracy. I'm also an atheist, which has become really interesting in this time because so much of the political discussion, we're about to go into an election cycle down here in the States. Yes. And, the right-wing media ads are very God. And I'm like, shut up. Yeah. It doesn't belong in politics ever. It doesn't belong in schools. Mm-hmm. By the way, I was just on a podcast last week that went completely south because I started talking about this. So I have learned my lesson.
Well, I think that's
she was like, my church does this. And I was like, we're not friends anymore. Okay.
Well, it's like the Instagram when you get on Instagram and then the first thing they say is, Jesus lover. And I'm like, okay, well, good for you.
You know what though? I think can't. Yeah, it's really ironic. And I'm saying this as a Canadian, so I'm going there, but just listen and consider. As a Canadian, I find it really ironic that a country that was built on capitalism and individualism and rights to freedoms has somehow put religion and politics back in bed. Church and state are now totally intertwined, and we cannot remove ourselves. Quebec had that fight in 1960, whatever, 69, and nobody gets married in Quebec anymore because that symbolizes religion. The ridiculousness and the hypocrisy in the States about the way they position religion. I don't have an issue with religion. That's not my thing. I'm happy if you love Jesus. I'm happy if you don't. Totally good with me. But when you use it as a foil for democracy or any kind of conversations about democracy, that I will take offense at, and that I will donate to. Like, I will fight. I'm a fundraiser, so I know what power of money is, and I am going to say, and we are going to get mad in this country. Women are going to get mad when you talk about Roe versus Wade, when you talk about all the rights being removed. We got to get freaking angry, and we got to swear, Whitney.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the young women in Iran right now, they're swearing, the middle fingers, videos of them, I mean, yes.
Whew. Oh, I love that, Jenny. Go.
Soapbox, but we love you anyway, Whitney, right? Regardless of where, right? But maybe we need to say more.
Well, it's interesting. Like, as an atheist, I've made 2 posts and I've taken them down. I didn't post them, which is like, hey, atheists, it's time to get a little louder. Like, they're starting to get louder, and for the most part, we've kind of just ignored them as crazies. But I think the crazy is infiltrating into normal, and we need to start being like, yeah, no, your little book club's gotten a little out of hand. Like, sit the fuck down, relax.
So my interpretation is moderation. When did being a moderate end up being so terrible?
Or being a moderate end up being so left?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, gee, no, I would actually like people to not die because they're poor. Oh, okay. Wow, you're a terrible communist. Okay, fine. Call me whatever you want to call me, but I just don't think people should die because they're poor.
I wonder if comedy is a tool for change. That's what you're kind of suggesting here.
100% change. Yeah. And I haven't figured out the tone yet. Like, you've got to be super careful as a woman, as a liberal. And one of the things that I took a stand-up class last night. Oh my God, you guys, I have to tell you about this. It was crazy. They were saying that the jokes that you do in LA or Canada are not going to play in Middle America. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You got to be super, like, you've got to have 25, 30 minutes of really solid material so you can pivot when you're like, oh, okay, and I'm not there yet. I'm not far enough in my craft to have that kind of library, but I'm working on it. But so this is hysterical. So last night in my class, we're going around the room. Say, tell us something about yourself. And this one lady goes, I have an albino snake. I was like, that's weird. And then she goes, I paint vaginas for a living.
Oh, tell me more.
Like, are we painting
the real ones?
Vaginas
on canvas.
Right. So that was, and so she's not painting on canvas. And now we're like, are there live models? Like, just sometimes, you can't take a picture, or you just can put your feet up in a stirrup and I'll paint them. And I was like, I cannot believe this is fucking happening right now. And then the next lady's like, I was raped by a ghost. I was like, this might be the most insane group of women I've ever met in my life. And I'm totally here for all of it. And one was a transgender. She goes, yeah, I had my vagina built in Vietnam.
Oh.
And so then the vagina painter and trans
can I do a canvas
we
of
were
it?
like, this is a match made in heaven. Like,
you need an artwork. You need an art piece of it.
What the fuck is happening?
Where do you hang this said painting?
Above the coffee table, above the sofa. But online, having talked about vaginas for years and years and years and birth and seen hundreds of vaginas, they're all different. And online, people do not know that they're different. The women do not know. Like, if you've never seen another vagina, you don't know that. And then people have hangups about them. It's a whole
Sylvia,
world.
that's not the kind of friends we are, just to be clear.
You're like, I don't need. Well, apparently your clitoris keeps growing.
What?
It's like your earlobes for the men, the earlobes for the men, they just keep growing in the nose tip, perhaps, and then
I have to look that up.
Jenny's scandalized here.
Can someone that's listening to this podcast please Google that? Because does it look like a little elephant trunk? Like when you hit your 70s, like what? And then do you have to lift it up? Like I'm just so confused about the medical.
But that's why there are procedures. I think people are getting procedures done.
A clit lift?
Yes, a clit
I don't
lift.
want
Or a clift?
Clit lift, Jenny.
Okay, we've evolved because I just want to say that in our first sessions, Sylvia would say perineum and I would go into giggles.
Yeah,
so we have evolved here.
Jenny, congratulations. Jenny 3.0, 6.0.
I had my eyes, my nose filler. I got my clit lifted.
Oh, there you.
Can we see it?
You can have a painting.
You can have a painting before and after.
How do you get your material, Whitney? How do you write your material? Is this like, would you take this and,
I hang out with funny ladies on podcasts.
There you go.
It just
That's right.
writes itself. Also,
I'm sorry, I'm speechless. I'm like dying here.
Jenny, Jenny is I wouldn't say, was more conservative,
Look at my uptight shirt here. Look at me.
You do look like a priest.
A nun. What do you?
But no, like you're asking where I get material. We just talked about this. This is the text I got 30 seconds before the podcast. I'm from my 16-year-old son. I may or may not have been tardy to first period due to violent diarrhea.
And he's going to be so happy you talked about this online.
You can't make this up. I go, well, stop eating Panda Express and chewing gum for breakfast. Like, stop it. He's like, my lesson will never be learned.
They are funny though. I find that the teenagers have these deadpan lines. Hey, Whitney, like one-liners.
One-liners. And my son he's 6'6". He's a good-looking kid.
Wow.
Plays tons of sports. And yes, but he grunts. Like that's his love. Like, food. So finally I was like, okay, I'm going to try and be a good mom. So I said, DJ, what is your love language? Because we're not communicating and I want to communicate with you.
Is grunting on the list?
I go, is it acts of service? Like, can I get your car washed? Or do you need like positive reinforcement? Do you need physical touch? Do you need me to say nice things about you? And he just goes, is there a none of the above option? I'm like, I am trying. So then he goes back and he comes back an hour later. He goes, I got it. I know what my love language is. I'm like, oh, we're bonding. I want cash.
Gifts. That's it.
No, just cash.
It's cash. I'm like, oh, okay. Like at least he gave me an actionable item. And I was like, okay, but you kind of owe us $100 for your car and your insurance.
That's right.
So how is this working? So that's the kind of shit, like, right? You have teenagers, they just grunt and want food and masturbate and just, oh God.
It makes me think about how, it's funny even that we ask the question, where do you get your material? Because life is the stuff that happens between the little moments, right?
Yeah.
We think we're waiting for this. Yeah.
My husband writes the anecdotes about the kids online too, with their consent, and they're funny. Kids are funny, out of the mouth of babes.
Yeah.
But it's true about the grunting. My son's 14 and has started the grunting and this low voice all of a sudden,
You want something? And I have a mumble mouther. And so I would say 50% of our conversations is me going, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
What? Enunciate your words. Mom, why are you being so mid?
So mid. Oh, that's true. Mid.
So midlife? Is that what he means?
Mid-level. No, it's like
mid-level.
Mid-level. You're being mid-level.
You're so mid.
You're so
my
mid,
gosh.
Jenny.
You're so mid. You're so
You're mid. You're not up above.
But no one has screamed "D's nuts" in my face for at least 6 months. So I'm like, oh my God. Progress.
Wow, that is.
No one has asked me for a fidget spinner or screamed "D's nuts." So
if Apple was listening to this podcast, I would tell Apple that one of my wishes as a mom is, those earbuds, or I don't know what you call them, earbud things that don't have thingies.
Yeah.
The kid, I want to know when they're on and when they're off, because I'm talking to them, the teenagers, and I have no idea if they're even listening to me.
They're not, Jenny. They're just not.
Even if it wasn't on, they're still not listening to it.
So it's a moot
You
point.
put those in there so that you won't talk to them because she'll think I'm busy.
I think that was one of those technology evolutions where we need to go backwards. Like, we need the string again. I need to be able to plug it in. I can't find them. They're never charged. I just go.
And the stress about losing them. I feel like if they haven't lost them, they're worried about losing them. So it's constant.
So are you guys in my house? Are you in my house? These are the conversations we had this week. Mom, I can't find my AirPods. I'm trying to find my phone. My phone can't find them. They're somewhere in the house. I go. Where do I go? She tells me this in 10 seconds. Honey, what are these? Where did you find them? I've been looking forever. I was like, they were in your bag. Oh, thank you. And then the other one, yeah, Mom, I've lost them. Anyway, yes, you're in my house.
I tell people I'm in moves management. I move things around the house and manage where they go.
That's really funny.
Oh, God.
This has been a great chat.
Oh, my
ladies.
gosh.
Thank you so much.
My belly is full.
Oh my gosh, it's been 35 minutes.
Isn't that crazy?
It happens when you're with fun people. It just goes so fast.
We're gonna jump on a plane and come and see a show. That's what we're doing.
I think
Jenny.
that's the plan. So tell us about shows.
Okay, so my upcoming show is November 11th at the Comedy Store on Sunset. And last week I did the Belly Room, and I guess it went well enough because they invited some of us back to do the original room. I'm not familiar enough with the Comedy Store, but so a little bit bigger room. I would love it if you guys could come down. I'll even see if I can get you tickets.
Amazing. This is West Coast for our listening crew. We're talking about West Coast. We're talking about California, U.S. Yeah, West Coast, U.S. But and what can we expect from Whitney on stage? Like, give us is it all this and more? Is it these kind of topics? Is it? We talk about middle life, like what it's like to be a woman in your 50s, and the smells and the sounds and the things that happen. Oh my goodness. The visuals, please no. Oh no, honey, you're gonna get them. If you could please send me a picture of your vagina, I'm gonna give it to this girl, have her paint it for you, and I'm gonna present it to you on stage. I want the picture. I want the artwork.
That's going to be on the invitation.
Giving away free clit lifts to people that show up.
We're going to rebrand them. They're cliffs. They're cliffs. Clit lifts. Cliffs.
The cliffs. Oh my God.
I'm going for it.
My brain is like, yes, everything. We're going to have logos.
We're
going to have a podcast.
We're going to change the Your Next 50 logo, Jenny. We've been wanting to do a rebrand.
Can you imagine? Oh my God. We gotta get out of here, Sylvia.
People are going to say, like, this episode, wow, these girls have just gone off the, funny board here.
So the message here today, guys, first of all, is to follow Whitney at the New Stepford. You can find out more about her. You can find out more about her show. You have to tune into the next episode. Will they or won't they rebrand their podcast with their their
new artwork?
Who's and what's it? Let's just call it that for the clean version. In the meantime, we will be back to share with you more fun, more humor. Remember, this show was all about it's not too late. And to just finally close a total loop, I reached out to Whitney, not knowing whether she was going to say yes or no. She was just like one of my passion people that I was following along thinking, this woman is hilarious. I have to meet her. Lucky enough, she said yes. And so that would be a reminder to you. Nobody is going to give it to you. You have to go and get it. And I know that's a passion of yours too, Whitney. So thank you so much for making us laugh. And hopefully we didn't pee our pants too much today. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. It was a pleasure. I want to come back anytime.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Good luck on your show. And we will have Whitney come back
soon.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Bye everybody. Have a great week,
everyone.
Folks.